Many regard Suchitoto as the original cradle of El Salvador's nationhood, a town that still echoes with the cadence of a bygone era. Perched amid the rolling hills of Cuscatlan, it has evolved into a cherished cultural destination, its charm rooted in the graceful endurance of its colonial architecture and the timeless rhythm of its cobblestone streets. These enduring stones invite travelers to step back into a world shaped by Spanish colonial life.
So join me as I bear witness to the birth of a nation.
Before we begin, I'd like to thank some incredible supporters, W.A., Laura, and Will. Your generosity and encouragement make this journey possible, and I'm truly grateful. The top comment last week called my injuries battle scars and likened them to Atlacat. After I stopped laughing, I realized I'll remember El Salvador every time I look at my thumb for the rest of my life. And I'm good with that. Thank you for your comments. I read them all. Please keep them coming. I've started a channel membership. If you're interested, click subscribe and then join for more details. Situated between the Guazapa volcano and the wide, shimmering waters of Lake Suchitlán, the road to Suchitoto unfolds at an unhurried pace. It's roughly an hour east of San Salvador, mostly smooth and welcoming. Though, every so often, the road politely reminds you that you are a guest here, whether through an unannounced speed bump or a cow standing confidently in the middle of your lane. Along the way, you pass through small towns that don't announce themselves. No signs, no spectacles, just people going about their daily lives, sweeping doorways, chatting on corners, tending to routines that have nothing to do with who's passing through. It's quiet, lived in, and grounding. And then, without ceremony, you arrive. The pavement gives way to bumpy cobblestone. The ride slows, and you feel it immediately. This is Suchitoto. The road itself becomes an introduction, guiding you gently into a town that values patience over speed. The drive isn't about rushing to the destination. It's about paying attention, slowing down, letting the landscape and the rhythm of everyday life set the pace.
Poor baby. But the name Suchitoto comes from the Nahuatl language, and it translates into place of birds and flowers, which is a reflection of both the natural beauty of the area as well as indigenous heritage. Long before the Spanish ever set foot on these lands, this area was home to Nahuatl-speaking people who lived in harmony with the Lempa River, with the forests, and with the songbirds that filled the air.
In 1524, Conquistador Pedro de Alvarado subdued the Mayan highlands of present-day Guatemala and moved into the people lands of northern El Salvador. That early foothold was swiftly lost, uprooted by indigenous resistance that challenged the newcomers' authority. But for the Alvarados, conquest was not merely a campaign. It was a legacy of a dynasty sealed in blood. The first Spanish settlement in the area was Villa de San Salvador, established in 1525 by Gonzalo de Alvarado, Pedro's brother. In 1528, Diego de Alvarado, uncle of the infamous Pedro, brought an end to indigenous sovereignty in this region.
Suchitoto, which many consider to be the original capital, was founded in 1528. However, Villa de San Salvador was founded in 1525, and that is actually the original capital. Today, it's an archaeological site known as Ciudad Vieja, or Old City. It's all of 3 to 5 miles away from here. What happened there remains a mystery. Suchitoto then became the capital in 1528 and remained the capital until 1545, when it was moved to the San Salvador that we know today. Suchitoto was then left to slumber in the shadows of history. But not everyone departed. The town endured, its spirit rooted deep in the land and in the people. Today, Suchitoto is home to approximately 25,000 residents, a living testament to resilience, memory, and the poetry of place.
I don't enjoy thinking about colonialism. It carries too much loss, too much violence, too much erasure of indigenous lives, languages, and worlds. That history is heavy, and it deserves to be acknowledged as such. And yet, I can't deny the contradiction I carry within me. Colonial architecture moves me, and the lively colors unique to Suchitoto are captivating. Walking through this town, I found myself lingering, looking closely, imagining how these streets might have appeared 500 years ago. I tried to picture the rhythms of daily life, the conversations, the quiet moments that history never recorded. I often think about the women who lived here, Indigenous and European alike, and wonder what we might have shared despite the vast differences between us. What did they worry about? What brought them joy? What felt ordinary to them in a world that now feels so distant? And Sometimes I turn the question around. If these people were suddenly transported to the present, would they recognize this place at all? We immediately see the colonial bones of the town. But would they see the same thing? Or would Suchitoto feel just as foreign to them as their world feels to us? That tension between beauty and brutality, memory and imagination, is part of what makes places like this so powerful.
If you come to Suchitoto on a Monday, just know that everything is closed. Everything. The museums are closed. Even the church is closed. But you know what the one thing they can't close is? The bloody lake.
The boat tour of Lake Suchitlán costs $25 and is advertised as a panoramic tour with a stop at one of the islands. Sounds very official. Very informative. Or maybe not. My captain has chosen silence. Absolute silence. I don't know if this tour normally comes with commentary that I'm missing due to a language barrier, or if this is simply a vibes-only experience. No narration, no fun facts, just wind, water, and my own thoughts. Which is fine. Truly, because I did my research before coming, and at this point, I'm basically giving myself a private, self-guided audio tour. The lake is doing most of the talking anyway. This is the largest body of water in El Salvador, spanning over 50 square miles across the northeastern highlands. Though man-made, its presence feels timeless, serene, expansive, and rich with life. Formed between 1973 and 1976 with the construction of the Cerrón Grande hydroelectric dam along the Lempa River, this reservoir, also known as the Cerrón Grande Reservoir, now produces the greatest share of the nation's electrical energy. Today, Lake Suchitlán is not only vital to El Salvador's energy supply, but also a beloved destination for recreation and natural wonder. Its tranquil waters invite visitors to explore by boat or kayak, while its surrounding wetlands offer sanctuary to a dazzling variety of bird life, making it a haven for birdwatchers and nature lovers alike.
The name Suchitlan was poetically coined by the filmmaker and cultural guardian Alejandro Coto, who lived in Suchitoto until not too long ago. I wanted to visit his museum today, but it's closed because it's Monday and everything in Suchitoto is closed on a Monday. But the name is a combination, Suchitlan, of Suchitoto and Cuscatlan. Cuscatlan being the capital of the people, the indigenous people who encountered the Spanish. So the name ties the lake both to heritage and to place.
Got stuck you were looking for clues, but that just made you more confused. You just need to see how lovely, how lovely, how lovely it is for you. Got got stuck, you went looking for clues, but that just made you more confused. You just need to see how lovely, how lovely, how lovely it is for you. The waiting's done and you find your home right here. A light goes off and it clicks, you figure out. You put it off, yeah you did. Life didn't fall apart with it. Couldn't miss what was intended. Let the fears fly away, ride it out like a wave. Call it in on your favors, call them in. Let the fears fly away, ride it out like a wave. Allow yourself some grace, you can have it. Just like the wind, just let it pass through. Just put it past you, you do what you do. Just like the wind, just let it pass through. Just put it past you, you do what you do.
We arrive at Isla El Ermitaño, named for the reclusive hermit who once called this place home. More on him in a moment. Stepping onto the island, the journey shifts from water to land. For the first time, my captain speaks, quietly taking the lead. A narrow path cuts through brush and stone, winding inward toward the island's core. But this island holds more than solitude. In 2014, a Piper aircraft from the Salvadoran Air Force fell from the sky and crashed into the waters nearby. 4 people were on board. Only 1 survived. At the summit, you reach the plane's final resting place. Its twisted remains, recovered from the lake long ago, now lie exposed to the elements, like the bones of a fallen metal bird. Silent, heavy, a stark reminder that even in places of beauty, tragedy leaves its mark.
I am truly humbled by that memorial. Whenever you see something like that, you realize that whatever it is that you're dealing with, it's pretty small.
On the other side of Isla El Ermitaño, there's a hidden cave. From 1989 to 2012, Don Carlos Lemus lived alone on this quiet speck of land, giving the island its name. Stories still circulate about the old man with deep eyes and deeper silences, a soul who chose solitude over the world. As we return, I would feel remiss if I didn't address that there are truths about Lake Suchitlan locals know well, but many visitors never notice. Its name, Suchitlan, means place of flowers. Yet, today, the surface tells a different story. Alongside water and reeds float soda bottles, plastic bags, medicine wrappers, tin cans, and thick mats of green silt. Much of this debris arrives via the Limpa River, which carries runoff and waste from the highlands of Guatemala, through Honduras, and finally into El Salvador, settling here at the base of the country's largest hydroelectric plant. The lake is more than scenery. It is El Salvador's largest freshwater reservoir and a critical source of hydropower. It is also an ecosystem under strain. Migratory birds, aquatic species, and native plants depend on these waters, as do endemic fish and mammals like cougars and ocelots that still survive in the surrounding landscape. One of the most visible threats is the spread of water lettuce, an invasive, free-floating plant that blankets large sections of the lake. Inedible to humans, it smothers native vegetation. clogs waterways and disrupts both power generation and fragile habitats. Pollution has pushed fish such as tilapia and cichlids deeper into the lake, beyond the reach of traditional fishing nets, cutting into the livelihoods of local fishermen. And the signs are everywhere, once you know how to look. Ducks weave narrow paths through floating trash. Small turtles climb onto discarded bottles to sun themselves. Thin horses wade into the lake to drink water that should never have been contaminated. Lake Suchitlan remains beautiful, but it is a beauty under pressure. Beneath the reflections of sky and hills lie a fragile system struggling to survive, carrying the weight of everything that flows into it.
That lake is so beautiful and simultaneously so filthy. And it's truly a shame. At first, I thought, maybe I can film this without showing the filth. And then I realized I couldn't. And then I realized I shouldn't, because it's something people should see. They should be aware of what humans do. It has so much potential. And I don't know, El Salvador already uses prison labor, so have the prisoners clean the lake. Come on, do something. There are people fishing in there. Whew.
Now it's time to get to my accommodation. And I'm doing something I have never done before. I'm staying with a family. For context, I'm an Aquarius, an only child. This is fundamentally not who I am. I travel independently. I disappear into my own bubble. I do my own thing. But then I read Elizabeth's Airbnb bio, and I started crying. I don't know this woman. I haven't met her. I don't even know what her house smells like yet, and somehow I already love her. Also, there are 3 dogs, which means I will absolutely be making 3 new best friends immediately. So, yes, I'm nervous, but I'm also very excited. What I won't be doing is shoving a camera in their faces, so I'll show you the place after I get their permission.
You know how Republicans are always screaming, embrace gender differences? So I have this giant piece of luggage. You've probably seen it. Let me turn the camera around. Yeah, that bad boy is majorly overweight, and the only reason I got away with it on the flight is because I was flying first class. Anyway, the guy that lives here didn't catch his name yet. I'm sure they said it. It's just a lot of Spanish, and I didn't catch it all the way. But anyway, he went out with me to my car to help me with my luggage, and I tried to tell him, no, don't pick that up. It's very heavy. Dude just lifted it over his head like it was nothing. Yeah, like it was a feather. So yeah, I'm having to embrace gender differences right now because there's no way in a million years I could do that. The only way I can pick it up is to lift with my back, which you shouldn't do, and then also kind of like heave it with my knee. Anyway, this is gonna be it. This is my Suchitoto home, and it's kind of quaint. So let me show you around.
In this colonial home, known as Casa Lichis, I have my own bedroom, complete with its own door and own key, which immediately makes me feel both secure and important. There are 3 beds because apparently this room is prepared for versions of me that never arrived. I chose one, naturally, the one with the mosquito net. Not because I need it for mosquitoes, but because it feels dramatic and, frankly, regal. There's one window which would open directly to the street if I opened it. I will not be opening it. There's Wi-Fi, a TV, and an air conditioning unit, as well as multiple places to hang clothes, which is crucial because I wash as I go and I refuse to live out of a suitcase like a feral raccoon. There's an ensuite bathroom with a shower. No, the water does not get hot. This is El Salvador. Hot water is a personality trait, not a guarantee. The design is beautifully minimal, which I love because it lets the colonial architecture do the talking. Red tile floors, wooden furniture, white walls. It feels like sleeping inside a very calm colonial church, which sounds odd, but as a historian, I mean that as the highest compliment.
Well, I've unpacked, I've gotten comfortable, but it's only like 6:30, even though it's pitch black dark. This is definitely not the end of the night for me. I'm ready to go back out and see Suchitoto at night, and because my room is right up against the street, it sounds like Suchitoto comes alive at night. I asked my host, Elizabeth, where's a good place to get a pina colada? She recommended, so now I'm gonna head out.
Lights and purple sky, everything's so bright. 기다려왔어 지금이야. Turn off your phone and off your mind. Look at you so bright. 멈출 수 없어 지금이야. Oh, I'll take you to the moon. Come on up, enjoy your ride. Oh, I'll take you to the moon. Just be ready to enjoy your night. Oh, baby, it's right now. You don't wanna waste this time.
I don't know why Google made it look like this place is on the other side of the town. It's just a couple of blocks away. I could have walked. Anyway, I'm here now. Looks cute. Ooh, there's a menu. Okay. A vegetarian plate that can be made vegan upon request, so it says. I also saw multiple cocktails that look like they'll do. So, let's go inside.
To the moon.
So I wasn't sure if anybody was actually working here because it was empty outside. But then someone walked up and he said, "Are you sure you want to sit out here? Because of the mosquitoes. Like, you had me at mosquitoes." So he took me inside. Would you visit Suchitoto? Let me know in the comments. And while you're at it, since you've made it this far in the video, please click the like button. It helps more than you know. So, there's no way that I'm coming to Suchitoto and not telling a story. Here's what's funny. On my first day, Jared, or Herad, my driver slash tour guide told me that one time he was on a mountain in San Salvador and he was just driving along, and then suddenly he saw a figure. It was on horseback. It was a man. He kept driving and it passed him, and the man on horseback said hello, and Jared said hello and then kept going. The way he described the figure, though, is what's very telling. When he was done, I said, Jared, you realize you saw the Black Knight? And he was like, wait a minute, you know the Black Knight? And I'm like, of course I know the Black Knight. How do you come to El Salvador and not know the Black Knight? So let's talk about the Black Knight.
As always, thank you to Timeless Stories of El Salvador for the inspiration.
Long before written word or whispered prayer reached this land, a few miles from here, there was a pond with water black as obsidian, deep in the heart of the forest.
Though it lay in the midst of a verdant wilderness, the ground surrounding the pond was barren and still. The surface never rippled, not even when storm winds blew overhead. The grass stopped short, as if unwilling to grow closer. The trees gave it a wide berth, their roots recoiling. The soil was ash. The air was cold and reeked of sulfur. The people called it Zocumeilteotl, the place where souls vanish. Most feared it. In this pond dwelled a demon, so wicked that he was nameless. For to name him was to summon him, and no one was foolish enough to do that. At least, not twice. He had no face, no temples, no songs of praise.
The elders taught that he had existed since the beginning of time, born of silence, long before the world took its first breath. People mostly stood clear. Mostly.
Every few generations, someone would come. A pauper, lusting for wealth. A lonely heart, aching for love. A warrior, hungry for blood. The demon came when summoned. He always listened. He would grant cacao trees that bloomed overnight, spouses pulled from dreams, whole empires made of obsidian and fire. But there was always a price. He took the seeker's soul, sometimes immediately, sometimes years passed, decades, but he always collected. Then came the year 1525, when the Spanish conquistadors made their first settlement here. They brought priests and crosses, muskets, and fire. They learned of the Black Pond and, in their ignorance, believed they could cast out the darkness with Latin words and shaking hands. They performed blessings, threw holy water, and sang holy hymns.
The demon remained. The priests could not hurt him. Even so, their actions would have unforeseen consequences.
Among the indigenous people here lived a woman named Duresnat. She was neither witch nor priestess, only a wife, a mother, and keeper of the hearth. Her husband, a brave warrior, fell with weapon in hand defending his people from the steel-clad invaders. Her son, still tender in years, did not perish by blade or fire, but by the invisible plague the Spaniards carried, a sickness that stole breath in silence. Grief-stricken and hollow, Duresnat walked to the Black Pond. She knelt by the water's edge and called to the demon. No chants, no offerings, just pain. He answered and listened.
Duresnot asked for one thing. Bury them, she said. In the earth they defile.
The demon rose from the water, not as smoke or shadow, but as a man, clad in armor as black as night. Every plate forged of liquid sin and long-forgotten sorrow. The demon-turned warrior spoke to her with a voice neither cruel nor kind. Do you understand the cost? She rose to her feet and responded, voice steady. I know what was and what will come. Still, I stand before you. So he walked to Duresnot's battle-weary village and rallied the men. He whispered fire into their hearts and fury into their veins. They followed him, farmers, weavers, hunters turned soldiers. With obsidian blades and rage in their lungs, they stormed the Spanish settlement. The demon led them like a storm given flesh.
Muchas gracias. Ah, muy bonita.
I just need one night where it just feels right. The stars are aligned. We do what we like. I just need one night where it just feels right. The stars are aligned. I just need one night. I just need one night where it just feels right. The stars are aligned. We do what we like. I just need one night where it just feels right. The stars are aligned. I just need one night.
They slaughtered every Spaniard that did not flee. They razed buildings and ground stone to dust. They burned the records and tore up the roads. So complete was their destruction that it was as if the settlement had never been.
Those who escaped the slaughter spoke in frightened whispers of what they had seen. Lucifer, as a warrior, clad in black, a towering figure who moved like smoke and struck like lightning. They said he spoke both Nahuatl and Spanish, his voice carrying the weight of ancient wrath and foreign fire. He gave no mercy, no pause. He killed with blade and shadow. His eyes burned with something not of this world. They called him the Black Knight.
When the work was done, the demon returned to the pond. He stood at the water's edge. Duresnot sat on a stone, waiting.
She looked up at him and stood. She whispered, "Thank you. I am ready." And with that, he snatched her soul, and her body collapsed. But something was wrong. The demon had always collected, always returned to the water. But the water was no longer black. Where once it had been a mirror of midnight, now it shimmered with the faint hue of life. Ripples stirred across the surface, not from him, but from the wind, soft and aimless. Tiny fish darted below, their silver bodies flashing like secrets trying to escape. Reeds had grown along the banks. Dragonflies hovered in the air. Frogs croaked as if mocking him. The demon narrowed his eyes. This place had been his dominion for millennia, silent, still, cursed. Now it teemed with life. like a wound healing without his permission. He remembered the priests, their fragile, trembling faith. The blessings they spoke and hymns they sang were activated in his absence. They had infected his sanctuary, purified the rot, weakened the gate. He stood, clenched his gauntleted hand, still carrying the weight of Doraznat's sacrifice. No, he could not return. The demon turned away from the now living water and stepped into the trees, whispering, "If this is to be my new realm, then I shall need a horse."
Years passed. The Spanish returned, but settled in a different location. Villages turned into cities, which spawned countries. Centuries echoed, but memory faded, like mist at dawn. People forgot that the pond had ever been black, or that the land around it had once been barren and still. The jungle crept in, reclaiming what had been forsaken, and time smoothed over the scar.
Today, if you go searching for it, you will not find it. It no longer exists. The blue water, the green trees, the stillness that once held its breath, all of it has been swallowed by the living heart of Lake Suchitlán. What was once a place of death now lies buried beneath moving water, layered with drowned forests and vanished towns, casualties of the dam that remade the land and renamed loss as progress. Roofs, roots, and memories sleep below the surface, pressed into silence. Herons glide overhead. Fishermen cast their nets. Life continues, unaware or unwilling to remember. The darkness that once stirred where the lake now shimmers. Beneath the ripples, the past has not disappeared. It has only learned how to stay quiet.
But from time to time, when the wind stills, when the air fills with the smell of sulfur, when mysterious hooves go clip-clop, it is said that a rider in black appears at the lake's edge, just waiting.
Say you're gonna tell a little lie tonight. Say you're gonna tell a little lie. Say you're gonna lie a little lie. So I can't keep on pretending in my mind. We don't really even know reality. Lie to me, oh.
The meal was amazing. The drinks were amazing. This whole vibe is amazing. I will definitely be coming back here before my time is done in Suchitoto.
'Cause I really need you tonight. It don't even matter what's reality. Lie to me, oh.
Suchitoto is a place where stories refuse to die. In its plazas and bell towers, its legends and lakes, the past is never buried. It lingers. It sings in the faces of locals, glides across the waters of Lake Suchitlán, and rides beneath the hooves of an unseen night. What began as a cradle of conquest has become a sanctuary of culture. Here, colonial splendor meets ancestral memory. Nature and narrative entwine. And whether drawn by history, mystery, or beauty, those who arrive in Suchitoto often find themselves leaving with more than they expected. So, if you ever find your way to this quiet town of birds and flowers, walk slowly Listen carefully. The land speaks. And if you're lucky, or perhaps unlucky, you may just hear an old hoofbeat echoing through the mist.
Close my eyes, I can feel it now, deep inside my mind. The truth is I believe the lie.
Stay curious, be inspired, find freedom, wander elsewhere. I'll see you in the next one.